Hey y'all, we had a couple of new faces on this episode of WoW Superheroes. Plus, not to mention, we heard the story of one of WoW's creative directors who has a beautiful history in women's wrestling. This is the WoW Superheroes After Show on Women's Wrestling Talk. Let's get it cracking, y'all.
T minus 1 minute. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Hey y'all, like I said earlier, this is Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And welcome to the Monday WoW Superheroes After Show After Party. Yo, after the show, it's the after party. This is what we've got going on. And of course, WoW Superheroes comes on Saturdays for various people. And we're here to talk about all the goings on of this amazing all-women show, WoW Women of Wrestling. Of course, I'm your girl, Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, color commentator for the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, and Black Girl Magic 2022, and of course, host and writer for this beautiful platform that you see here. But of course, I am not alone. I have my amazing, amazing tag team partners. We are a three-way team here. So first, I just want to give an intro to the amazing Supermom. She is the creator of NCAT We Trust. And of course, she is going on to Florida to have her amazing Women of Color in Wrestling panel at Florida SuperCon. She is Katrina Blake. How are you, Kat?
I am well, tired, busy couple of days, busy week, but I am happy to be here, happy to talk some WoW.
Absolutely. And your hair color is amazing too, I might add. Like we were talking about it earlier. And it really is beautiful and it fits you, it suits you. And
Super
of course,
cat.
in the comments, if you love her hair, please let us know. We do love the hair color. It's cool. But of course, last but certainly not least, we have a superstar who was just doing interviews on the AEW New Japan crossover event Forbidden Door last night, doing interviews with the likes of Willow, the New Japan Strong Women's Champion, and MJF, the AEW World Champion. She is everywhere all at once, just like the movie, doing everything all the time. She is Emily May. How are you, Emily?
I'm good. I literally was watching stuff like late last night and today, catching up because I had to catch up on WoW. And I had to know all the, the inner workings of this episode because I know we had some new faces, but I'm so happy to be here. I rushed back today so we could do this and doing a bunch of work and stuff. So I'm so happy I could be here with you too. As always, you guys are so generous with your time and feedback and we all stick together. So I was so happy, real quick, to see Women's Wrestling Talk yesterday. I saw a whole crew of wonderful ladies. So I was so happy to see friendly faces. Not that everyone else wasn't friendly, but people, I was like, oh my God. I was excited. Among other things, but
yes, Women's Wrestling Talk was in full effect this weekend, especially with you representing New Japan, and then also with Lyric at the media scrum. Just so many people representing for AEW in and out of the arenas and stuff. So it was really cool and heartwarming to see you guys collectively come together, meet each other, and just get it on and do this wrestling journalism thing, of course, for women's wrestling and just wrestling as a whole. It's always inspirational and amazing to see everyone doing their thing. So congratulations to everyone, every woman that participated in media stuff for AEW and New Japan this past weekend, and every woman who participated on the card, and even this weekend, if you weren't on the Forbidden Door card, you're still a part of the weekend stuff, especially if you were on Rampage and Collision. That's a weekend deal right there.
There was Impact this weekend too, and a bunch of other shows too. So it was definitely a full weekend. It was a full weekend.
Yes, so shout out to everyone doing the dang thing. And speaking of doing the dang thing, I want to start by talking and congratulating WoW Superheroes for being picked up for a second season in this
Season
iteration.
2.
Yes, they made a press announcement, a press release saying that they got picked up for a second season, and that made me so happy to see. I didn't see it, from the official thing. I saw it from a fan who tagged me on
Yeah.
Twitter, who tagged all of us on Twitter about it, and I was like, "Oh my god,
So it
second
was
season!"
I know, it was really exciting. I had a feeling something was happening because they announced tickets for the new tapings, and so I was like, "Oh, that means a season, another season." So I think we were all very excited to see that over the weekend.
Yeah, we really are. And it was such a blessing to see because there are so many shows here lately with the landscape of Hollywood changing with the writer's strike and everything. There are so many shows that are just, up in the air or shows that have already ended, whether it be on television or on streaming, period. So it's just so nice to see that this show, which highlights all of these amazing women, is getting picked up for a second season. And then on top of that, having a live show in Los Angeles at the Belasco Theater in August with so many of our familiar faces that we've seen on WoW, as well as the return of Santana Garrett and so many other things that we have to look
Huge
forward to with
news.
that
Yeah,
show.
huge news.
So it's just amazing, and I'm so happy to watch it blossom. And like I said on social media, we're a part of that, growth because we talk about it all the time. So with that happening, people are getting more exposed to it, and it's growing more and more. And I could not be more proud of these women and everyone on the staff and all the producers and everything. Like, it's just an amazing deal for them. So exciting, such exciting stuff. I'm just so thrilled for them. But yeah, after, of course, all of the announcements and stuff, we had an episode take place this weekend. So let's go to the very first match, which was a tag team match between Chantilly Chella and Foxxy Fierce, reuniting their dancing powers, going up against Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball, who are also reuniting. Because the last time we saw Reina Del Rey, she was running through her opponents in the singles competition. And then she also sort of made her I guess you could say statement saying that she wanted to go for the WoW title at some point, but now she's gotten back together with Wrecking Ball, and the both of them were a very imposing tag team when they were consistently together. So I was very surprised to see them here again. So I was just like, okay. And then when it came to Chantilly and Foxy, they had broken up a little bit, but now they're back together. So, here we are in the today of things, and they had a match. And this match was pretty good for the most part, but it felt like in some places it was a little bit one-sided because Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey just utilized their strength, their brute strength, to tear down their opponents every single time. Like you see in this picture where Reina is just picking up and lifting Wrecking Ball and slamming her onto Foxy Fierce. Like, it's nothing. It's just crazy stuff going on throughout this match. And even when Chantilly Chella tried to fight back as much as she could, it just did not necessarily help a lot of the time. And as resilient as they were and as spirited as they were, and we'll get into more spirit later, it just didn't work out for them, and Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball wound up winning. But then something that interested me a little bit was even at the beginning, before the match even got started, like Reina Del Rey actually smacked Wrecking Ball in the face, and Wrecking Ball looked like she enjoyed it. And they love to talk about how toxic they are as a team because they like to beat up on each other before they beat up on anybody else. So it's just a really interesting dynamic that these two women have, but you just cannot deny, you know, their dynamic in the ring and how tough they are and how strong they are. So yeah, Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball got the win here. So
Mhm.
Katrina, starting with you, how did you feel about this match?
Like, I was happy to see, I like Foxy Fierce. It's always nice to see her in the ring, and I've grown to appreciate Chantilly in regards to not only is she like fun when she needs to be, but when she needs to be serious, she can be. And so it was good to see them. But I felt like in this regard, you just was outmatched physically. Um, you have Reina, who's always kind of shown from like since we've seen her in this iteration where she's always been kind of on it, as far as there's a reason why she was going after the Beast, and I feel like you're going after somebody like the Beast, you kind of have to be on your A game, and so she's been doing that all this time, and so having somebody like your name is literally Wrecking Ball, like that's something you're gonna wreck people, you're gonna wreck superheroes, and I feel like that's what they did in this regard. I just think they were physically outmatched with regards to how they went about it, that while they did try, and it was kind of weird to an extent because we've seen them both, Chantilly and Foxxy, on both sides where they've won matches and they've lost matches, but this seemed like a different kind of loss because it did seem very one-sided to an extent. I don't want to say because it wasn't a squash match, but it almost gave the vibes of when you're about to squash somebody, how just dominant the other person usually is. And I felt like in this case, Wrecking Ball and Reina was just really dominant. I was kind of side-eyeing the whole hitting each other thing because I'm like, well, that's a weird way to, you guys can maybe go to a break room and break some stuff if you guys want to prove your, physicality. I feel like there's other ways to go about that. Like maybe take a class together or something. I don't know. I feel like slapping each other. I don't know how I feel about that. That didn't give me a side eye. But in regards to this, they were physically outmatched, and so it was a win that I wasn't surprised by, because honestly, from the very beginning, they were just on it. Like, very little leeway for Foxxy and Chantilly to really do anything because they were on it physically, just like kind of making sure they kind of dominated. And so it was a good open for the this week. But I'm not surprised with the way that how we got to the result, because it was kind of obvious soon as like, oh, they're not even letting up. They're like making sure they're not giving them they didn't even give them an inch. Basically, it was just like they're on it the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Emily, how did you feel about this match, and how do you believe Chantilly, Chella, and Foxy Fierce can bounce back from a loss like this?
Yeah, I mean, this was a really, it was a fun way to start the show. I think Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey, they bring a lot of energy. As, you and Katrina said, dominance. They bring a lot of physicality of strength that Foxy Fierce and Chantilly don't necessarily go up to those extremes. I would say they are physical and they are athletic, but they're not at the physical extremes that Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey are at, right? Because they're that whole slapping thing and hitting thing. It was like, I felt that was supposed to make the audience uncomfortable, because they're trying to intimidate and make their opponents uncomfortable. And so it just it kind of starts things off like, oh, they're not going to play by the rules. They're going to bring things out of each other that is going to be dominant, that's going to be aggressive. And they definitely did that. But to answer your question about Chantilly and Foxy Fierce, I think this is a hard thing to come back from, because as we talked about, both of these tag teams are reunited again. And so my question is whether they are going to continue to be a tag team, because again, we still have this tag team competition happening continuously for those titles on WoW. So are these tag teams trying to come together as a unit to get those titles? To get that championship. And again, I think that's always on everyone's mind. And so I think what Chantilly and Foxy Fierce should focus on is, yes, they've had some wins and losses individually as singles competitors, but if they want to work together to get some gold, they have to think more aggressively. And depending on their opponent, they have to think differently. Use their strengths, use those movesets. They're both very talented. Use their skill sets together and separately. And so it takes time to rebuild a tag team. It takes time to figure out how to work together again. Like any relationship, you're still trying to figure things out, right? So that's what they have to do. They have to regroup, and if they want to continue, they have to figure out, how do I beat the top teams of WoW? So they have to think outside the box, think differently, and then attach that to the moveset that they're bringing to the ring.
Yeah, I feel like we may have said this about them before, where at one point they had lost a tag team match and we were talking about how they need to lock in and just get a little bit more focused. At some point, I forgot. It was either them or it was another tag team, but literally the same thing, the same argument, can apply. And it's like you said, you brought up a good point about the tag division, being as strong and as flourishing as it's ever been, with everyone competing to qualify to face off against the Carlson twins for those tag titles. And, if Foxy and if Chantilly really do want to lock in that like that, then they really do need to, change up their strategy and find a way to mesh their chemistry. Because even though, they like to have fun and, do all this stuff in the ring, you have to like really like get into it so you can be an amazing force whenever you get inside that ring and not get intimidated by whoever you have to face, whether they be big or small or whatever. Like, they really do need to focus if that's what they want. But it's just like, it just feels like sometimes when they're doing singles competition, they're more, it's like you see more of that fierceness than you do when they're in tag team stuff. I don't know. It's just a little bit different when it comes to those two. But either way, Reina wound up getting Reina and Wrecking Ball wound up getting the win here. So that was the end of that. So we just have to wait and see what else will come from the rest of the tag division. And we will get into that a little bit later. But now we're going into singles competition with BK Rhythm, one of our faves, who actually chimed in and said that she loves women's wrestling talk as a show.
Yes.
Like,
Shout
that
out.
really blessed me. I was just like, yes, we got a fave.
So Stephanie, I think BK Rhythm, hear me out here. I think BK Rhythm, I was gonna run this by the team here. I think BK Rhythm should make us a little song, a little rap. I think she should she could be our opening song.
Maybe she should. That would be amazing. That would be absolutely great. I would love that if she decided to do that. Oh my God. We do need to put that by the team and actually, put that in TK's ear, and see how we can make that happen, okay? Like, I'm more than sure BK would love to do that for us, seeing as she is a fan. And that just made me so happy. It just makes me so happy that a lot of the superheroes really do be, chiming in every now and again. And then, not only just chime in, but then listen in and stuff. Like, I'm just so happy about that. So big ups to BK Rhythm, even though sometimes we might have, stuff about the raps and stuff. But either way, she's becoming a pillar slowly but surely when it comes to WoW superheroes this season. And she faced off against a new face, but not really a new face to me and Katrina, Crystal Waters. So me and Katrina saw Crystal Waters participate in that gauntlet match for the WoW World title when it was vacant at Los Angeles Comic-Con. And yeah, her and Sandy Shore are actually a part of a tag team called Spring Break 24/7. And I thought that was really interesting because when I saw Sandy Shore, I was just like, she looks like she could be friends with Crystal Waters. And when they mentioned it, I was like, you know what? That makes sense. So it was just really cool. And I thought that was amazing. So we had this singles match going on, and BK Rhythm, of course, started with the rap, and she didn't have anything kind to say to Crystal Waters, essentially. So this match felt, to me, it was a little bit different than most matches when it comes to BK Rhythm and any other opponent, because of course this was Crystal Waters' I guess you could say proper on television debut. We saw a little bit of what she had to offer with her athleticism, but it felt like throughout the entire match BK Rhythm kind of had her number here. And usually that's not the case when it comes to debut matches. Usually when it comes to debut matches, the other opponent will probably have the best of at some point, but then the newer superstar will sort of beat up on them a whole lot and then, rise up to win. But that wasn't necessarily the case here. But as you can see, Crystal Waters did fight back with a hip toss right there, as you can see in that picture. But BK was fighting back with her ground and pound and her hard hits. Of course, working on the abdomen of Crystal Waters. So it was just a really, it was a good back and forth type of match. But at the same time, BK really seemed to have Crystal Waters' number. And in the end, BK wound up winning. So yeah, Miss BK, every now and again, she'll win a couple or she'll lose a couple, but either way, she's one of the most consistent superheroes that we do see every other week fighting someone. And it just makes me wonder, when exactly will she be able to challenge for the Wow World title? Like when is that going to exactly happen for her? But then you could argue that maybe her and Penelope wouldn't fight because they're both bad guys. I don't know. But either way, this match ended and BK Rhythm came out the victor. So, Emily, how did you feel about this match and the performance of Crystal Waters?
Yeah, I mean, Crystal Waters, I mean, had a kind of an uphill battle here going in because you have BK Rhythm obviously has gone through many opponents, comes out with that with a little rap, try again, mental game, right? Going in with a little like trying to get people out of their mental game. When you're in there, you're face to face with your opponent, you don't know what's going to happen, right? And BK Rhythm was very strong in this match, was very, very strong, came and obviously came out with that win. And so, but for Crystal, she did a great job. I think she showcased some of those moves that we're all looking for from WoW superheroes. We're looking for, someone to fight back. Like you can't just go in and be like, all right, I have this new opponent and I'm trying to like make a name, and you have to, really fight. And you don't always get those wins, but it's about what you put forth, the effort you put forth. Even if it's not a solid W, you're at least putting the effort in. And you could see that she was really, really trying to make a statement with what she did. So I think this is just the beginning. I do like her energy and her character and like what she brings out. I think I did like the contrasting energies, right? Of BK Rhythm and her, but I think this is obviously she has to there. I'm not sure, what is next in like opponent wise, but BK Rhythm has been shining a lot lately. So I think Crystal has kind of some places to kind of grow, not in a bad way, but I think she just has ways to kind of move forward and find that opponent that she can use all of her moves on. I think this is just like a small portion of what we can see.
Absolutely. Really good points. Really good points. Katrina, how did you feel about this match? And what do you believe is the next step for BK Rhythm?
Well, like you said previously, I do think she's from this iteration. I believe she was probably one of the first ones we saw for the first episode. I think on this iteration, I think she was one of the first matches we saw, and so I would say she's also a pillar in the wall. I do have my beasts sometimes with some of the raps, just because like I don't know how like I don't know this is the route we want to go. It was actually just slightly off to see that she actually watched. Actually, anytime we ever see any of them kind of pop up, like, oh, we really like the show, and I'm like, oh yay, because we enjoy watching the show. We enjoy like just watching that, and so to see that the wrestlers are paying attention, and I believe we are the only brand that really covers them, and so it's always really cool to kind of see at least cover them consistently. It's really always cool to see that. But in regards to her, I mean, I was surprised, and again, Crystal's not new to us because we did see her for the first time in LA. But I was surprised only because a lot of times when you really see these debuts, they try to have a person when the debut in this regard. And so I guess if anything, this speaks to her being a pillar, that she still pulled the win off and like kind of like you said had her number. I think that's really good ring psychology to kind of know what you're getting into the ring with if you can find information and do what you need to do in the ring. And I think she did that. And so I guess that speaks to her. Could I see her going against Penelope? Yes, I like yes, they're both heels. But I feel like as far as mouthiness, if you're thinking of something like who has something to say, BK Rhythm will kind of give Penelope a run for her money in that regard. Because Penelope kind of has this whole like, I'm the champion and it's Fab Four and it's like I'm kind of above everything else. But BK Rhythm usually starts off kind of insulting automatically with her raps before matches. And I feel like she's somebody that wouldn't necessarily get easily frazzled by Penelope Pink. So I can see it happening. I don't know how that would work if they like, because there's a lot of times there's interference in the Fab Four. Would BK Rhythm be okay with that? Would she'll be like, listen, let me do what I need to do? I mean, I don't know how that dynamic play out, but I can actually see it happening because I think if we're going off of promo wise with regards to being somebody who might be like upset or easily like frazzled by the way the Fab Four is, I think BK Rhythm is probably one of the top people because she's usually the one who's kind of a step ahead trying to have her raps in ready before a match. Like she's already on it. Like, well, here I'm going to say to you before we start our match, here's the stuff I'm going to say about you. And so I feel like in that regard, she might have one up on Penelope. So I wouldn't mind seeing it if they have a thing. And I feel like she did have a couple of weeks where we kind of wasn't sure where she was in regards to she kept losing a lot of her matches.
Yeah.
But it kind of seems like they're putting her back in the upswing again. So it's very possible that she could go for the title next. Because, like, what do you do now? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like she's in a tag team. So that kind of leaves, like, okay, what else is after beating everybody else? It's like, let's go for the main title, which would be the WoW's World Champion. So, championship. So I can see that happening. But I thought it was still a good match, and you know, I'm looking forward to see what else Crystal can do because again, she's pretty new to us.
She's new, yeah.
In regards to like, you know, this iteration of the women on the card.
Yeah, I mean, Kat, you brought up an interesting point because I'm wondering, because I think BK Rhythm could give the Fab Four a run for their money on promos, right? But I want to know if she had 3 other people to help, who would they be? And so we don't have to answer that question, but I'm wondering that, like, okay, if we really want to make this something, like, what does that look like? And because BK Rhythm is a pillar, like we're talking about, I think she's not intimidated by that. She's not intimidated by one person. She's not intimidated by Penelope and others, right? So it's an interesting thing to think about is like, what is her journey next? And I think we obviously are going to continue to watch and see, but yeah. And I think Crystal has a lot, like she is newer. So we are kind of seeing her, we have to kind of see her blossom a little bit more, which is exciting. We've seen obviously over the season, we've seen many WoW superheroes debut in the first few episodes and then slowly grow over the next few weeks, or they come back in months after and they've blossomed and grown. So I think that's what I love about debuts is you get to see them in their first moments and then they slowly get better and better and have different opponents. So I think it's an exciting time for her and I'm excited to see that journey. But I think BK Rhythm also we need to keep an eye on. We're not sure where she's going to be going next.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that in terms of who she would team with in terms of fighting against Penelope Pink in the Fab Four. Really, the only person we've seen BK partner with is Robbie Rocket. And ironically enough, Robbie Rocket wound up losing to Sandy Shore in her debut match. So it's just like you wonder what that, partnership is like. And considering no one else would really, I guess, be on their side because of their attitudes, I really think that is a good question that you asked, Emily. Who would, be backup to BK outside of just Robbie Rocket? Like, who would do that for her? I'm not entirely sure. But either way, it would still be a fun little rivalry. I just wanted to just dip that in the pot just for us to think about a little.
Yeah, we're just giving some ideas, we're just throwing things out there.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of ideas, before we go, but before I mention ideas, before we go to our next match, we do want to take a quick little break to tell you more about Women's Wrestling Talk and the other shows that we have going on throughout the week. So we'll be right back.
Hey peeps, TK Trinidad here, boss lady of Women's Wrestling Talk. And I want to say thank you so much for watching because you've got millions of options. Plus, you don't have to worry about sharing your password to check us out. But while you're here, hopefully you know we have so many more shows to watch, like Turnbuckle Glam, Raw post-show, WoW post-show, AEW Dynamite post-show, Women's Wrestling Army post-show, NXT post-show, Impact Wrestling post-show, AEW Rampage and SmackDown Live post-show, On the Scroll, ROH post-show, WWT Live, plus all of our interviews with the hottest women's wrestlers in the game. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our website at www.talkpod.com and follow us on all social media platforms at www.talkpod, and make sure to spread the word. That means send this to the group chat. Yes, even the person with the green bubble. Thanks again so much for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao for now.
All right. And of course, we always send a shout out to our lovely CEO, TK Trinidad, for creating this platform and for having us here to talk about all the things that we love about women's wrestling throughout all of the Wrestleverse. So yeah, it's just cool stuff going on all the time here at Women's Wrestling Talk. So before we get to our next match, a segment did play before this match involving Coach Campanelli and Randy Rara walking into the locker room and running into Ariel Sky. And what's so funny is a few weeks ago, Ariel Sky did make her debut and she won her debut match. So congrats to her. That was really cool. So along with her making her debut match, we noticed, a lot of her work in ring came from her gymnastics background, but they were always sort of comparing it to sort of all-star cheerleading as well. So me and Katrina were like, wouldn't it be cool if Ariel Sky actually got with, Coach Campanelli and Randy Rara, considering the coach and Randy were talking about adding an extra person, to their team. I was just like, that would be really cool. And what's so funny is this started happening in this segment and they started talking to each other. And it was almost like Randy had to almost convince Coach Campanelli to do it. Like she was just like, well, if you want to, I guess, you can be a part of our team or whatever. It was almost like Coach was still doubting Randy's ideas, which makes me sad because I thought they had grown past that point. But here we are in the today of things. And she reluctantly let Ariel Sky be a part of a tag team with Randy Rara on this episode of WoW. And take a wild guess, ladies, as to what their tag team name was.
I mean, you already told me on Saturday. You told me Saturday, and it actually fit in line with what was being said. So I feel like they're listening. I feel like the universe is like, here we go, guys. We heard what you're saying. Let's bring it in.
Yes. So this really knocked my socks off as I was watching Saturday evening. But Genesis and Ice Cold from Exile fought against not Coach Randy and Ariel Sky as Team Spirit. Team Spirit. This knocked my socks off because I swear I cannot tell you how many times I've been calling Coach and Randy Rara Team Spirit in my head and on this show since we've started. And the idea that they call them both Team Spirit just blew my mind. And I was just like, oh my God, did they take are they listening? What it was just a lot. It was a whole lot. I was freaking out. I called Katrina. I was like, "Kel, you won't believe what just happened." And she was just like, "Whoa," because she wasn't watching it yet because it didn't come on for her. And I was just like, "Oh my God!" But yeah, okay. Let me
take a breather. Take a breather.
Let me get my composure back because I'm playing host. Let me chill. But yeah, this tag team match took place between Exiles, Genesis, and Ice Cold versus Ariel Sky and Randy Rara. And this was a very impressive match, after their get together in the locker room. This match was really, really good. Even though Genesis and Ice Cold were definitely, giving them the hard stuff that they normally give all of their opponents, Randy Rara continued to impress me throughout this entire match with a lot of her different moves in which she added in a lot of her cheer stuff with her DDTs and such. And I was just like, come on, Randy, come through, Randy. Like, she was impressing me. Ariel was impressing me. Like, they had really good chemistry throughout the match. And I was just like, I really hope that we get to see more of them as a tag team because they just fit together. They're like a match made in heaven with all of their acrobatics that they were doing. And it's just, give it to us all the time. But they got distracted towards the end of the match as Coach was trying to tell them what to do as they tried to hit sort of like a double tag team maneuver onto Genesis and Ice Cold. But then they got distracted and Exile wound up slamming them and stepping on Ariel Sky, as you can see, after they covered them for the 1, 2, 3. So Exile wound up winning the match due to the distraction of Coach's whistle as she was trying to boss them around and tell them what to do. And this made me so sad because I was just like, oh my God, they were doing so well. And then Coach kind of got in the way of it. But then another thing that happened that really intrigued me and got me together was the fact that Coach got the microphone and was acting like it was their fault and not her fault that she distracted them. It was almost like she was like, well, if you guys had just listened to me and went with what I said, then the outcome of the match would have been different and all that blah blah blah. And I'm sitting here like, ma'am, I thought we were past this point. I thought we were past the point where you were just bossing them around or just bossing Randy around and, you know, taking away her autonomy in the tag team. Are you jealous? Like, it's really giving the green-eyed monster. It really was. Like, I hated that for them because Ariel and Randy is a great idea as a tag team. They just got distracted by her. So I'm wondering, do you guys feel, and I'm gonna start with Katrina, considering she was the one who I called with all of this madness first. Katrina, how did you feel about the chemistry of Randy and Ariel in comparison to the chemistry of Randy and Coach Campanelli? Yeah, I'm stirring it up.
So my thing is, I'm thinking back when we first kind of saw Coach Campanelli when she first said to the audience that she was going to be taking Randy Rara under her wing, and it was always as if she was doing a service, not necessarily as a friend, but as if she knew more. Like she knew better, she knew what should be done, it was always follow her lead, follow her plan, and even when they won the titles and the matches to that, she was very much more involved than Randy was. And that was something I've always noticed until quite recently. I believe that school brawl match they had where a schoolyard match where I really saw Randy kind of coming into her own, where she was doing a lot more than previous matches. And so I feel like with Ariel and Randy, and maybe it's because both of them have like the flips and a little bit more as far as aerial athletic with regards to moving around the ring. And maybe that I feel like they clicked easier off of that alone. And maybe, you know, because Randy's more like cheerleader and type. And if you have somebody like, you know, who's into cartwheeling and has a sunny deposition for the most part, you probably will click a little bit more than you will with Coach Campanelli. And I feel like that might have been why she was feeling away. We already know she's always said that she's coach and she's right. And so if you're having somebody who's kind of not following that, I'm sure it triggers a little bit like, well, you're not listening to what I'm saying. You're not listening to what I think should go. And I did think it was a bit gaslighty to act like it wasn't her fault for distracting them because they were doing well before that. And so I feel like while if a good coach might complain or might make a face afterwards, but never distract your team or never distract from the ultimate goal, which is to get a win. And so I feel like coach might be a little bit salty, just a little, that you know, Randy Rara is just working pretty effortlessly with Eric. I feel like this might have been one of her best showings. I feel like she has consistently gotten better over the last few months. Again, we're seeing her a lot more in matches than we did previously. Where it's felt like Coach was mostly involved and like Randy got her little moments here and there, but now she's really doing that too much without having to rely on Coach. And maybe Coach don't like that. Maybe it's one of those, well, you don't need me as much as you did before. You don't really, and now if you can work with somebody else who is very similar in regards to in-ring ability, in regards to as far as how they move around the ring, do you need me anymore? Do you need me to coach you? And maybe that's why she's feeling away. Like I did feel like she was a little bit feeling a little salty there by that response, by her implying, oh, well, it's not my fault. Like anytime somebody distracts and I get a W, it is your fault, sis. Like I'm sorry, I feel like that's your fault. And so I do think I like what Randy is doing, and I thought this, even though they didn't get the win, I feel like this really showcased how much Randy has grown from the beginning of when we first got introduced to her in this iteration. But I feel like they really could be like, you know, the whole spirit thing up to Coach Campanelli don't really always have the spirit part aspect of that team. And so it could very well just be maybe Randy's not needing her as much anymore. She's kind of standing up on her own 2 feet. She doesn't need to kind of play like the back, because I felt like a lot of times she played the back to Coach Campanelli. And maybe she's starting to see that. And if you have somebody like Ariel Sky, who again, very similar in the ring, pretty happy deposition for the most part, well, what do you need you there for? And so I feel like that's kind of what's happening as far as what she might be feeling. Again, I'm speculating because I don't know for sure yet, but that's just the vibes I got from watching that.
Yeah. No, I mean, Kat, so
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, you said a lot of the things that I noticed as well. Is like, I think this might be the beginning workings of some a separation of perhaps this alliance here, because again, if we're seeing a success, like it's kind of like teacher versus student, right? If your student is excelling past the moment that you're like, I'm done, you have to know when it's okay to be like, you're on your own, like go fly, right? And coach has got in the way this time, is maybe potentially holding her coachees back, and like this is not good. Like you have to have everyone excel. So I think I'm seeing some holes in the in this relationship here. But you could definitely see it. But Kat, you had great points. That you were getting all the points I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's how it is a lot of the time. It's just like my thing is I think even though I've never been a teacher before, I feel like the mark of a good teacher is not just thinking that you have all of the answers. Like a lot of it is also listening to what the other person or your student is saying. You can't just, and I feel like this also speaks to relationships. It speaks to, parentage and so many different things, parenthood and stuff. Like you have to know how to listen to the person who is a little bit younger than you, because what they're saying, might make a whole lot of sense and might add something new to your perspective. I mean, just because you're older, I said this on my show too. Like just because you're older does not necessarily mean that are wiser a lot of the time. And when it
100%.
yeah, and when it comes to coach, you and Randy, have had some success, and yeah, you guys have had, your trials, but you've still had a lot of success so far. And why would you ruin that just because Randy, wants to add somebody else to your team, which was an idea that you had.
And you
And
have
then
to
on
know, like, and you have to know when to say you're wrong too, and like
exactly.
in any relationship. And so coach needs to be like, hey, maybe I've been wrong in the past. I'm like, everyone learns still, so she needs to be like, hey, I'm still learning, like I think let's try this out, and like embrace it, and like take her, because you could learn from your students too. So she needs to be like, all right, Randy, like that's a great idea, let's do this, like, and I'll be supportive, instead of what was seen on this episode, which was not as supportive.
Yeah, and then just because it doesn't work the first time doesn't mean that it's not going to work the second time too.
Yeah.
Because coach really did come down on them just because, they didn't win this time, because they didn't listen to her this time because of the whistle and stuff. My thing is, just because they didn't get the win this first time doesn't mean that they won't get the win later on. So, yeah, like all of you guys' points are really amazing points, and I just feel like coach shouldn't feel slighted or jealous, because their partnership, she should trust that their partnership is strong enough to withstand, meeting new people and having new people come and be a part of the fray, because either way, they all have spirit all over them. So why is it that you're letting this new form of spirit, threaten the relationship of what y'all got? Like, if anything, you should be trying to work together with her instead of
Yes.
trying to alienate her just because, of whatever jealousies that you may
Yeah.
be feeling.
Yeah, I mean, think about, like, they're the ultimate cheer squad, so they need to bring that spirit all the time. Like, bring the spirit, bring that school spirit, bring the teamwork. But coaches are tough. Coaches, I don't know if you've had like really tough coaches, and like they're really tough. They'll tell you how fast to run, how long to run, what to eat, what to say, what to do. Like they can drill. And so like on the flip side, to be like devil's advocate here, it could be like coaches trying to teach them a lesson and kind of give them like not the easy route, right? Like, oh hey, I've been helping you along the way, but hey, oh look, you got a little bump in the road, because that happens too. So I don't know, just throwing it out on the potentially the opposite side, that maybe there's things here happening for a reason.
Yeah, maybe so. I do see your perspective, with that as well. And I do understand that. So hopefully, they can iron out those kinks and then continue to rise as Team Spirit. Because I would hate that tag team that I personally named myself, you know, to wind up breaking up just because of some mess. Like, I would literally
No.
hate that. Like, that would literally like bum me out for like the rest of the
You need
year.
a T-shirt. You need to be like, or do a hashtag like save Team Spirit,
Exactly.
Justice for Team Spirit.
justice Team Spirit.
Exactly. Justice
Hashtag
for Team
wow.
Spirit. Hashtag wow. Exactly. Because y'all ain't finna do this. Y'all ain't finna do this. Y'all don't put this
I
together.
was like, I don't want to hear Stephanie every week just being all upset. Don't do it. Don't do
Yes. Yes.
it.
Me upset is just not fun. It's not fun at all. Y'all do not want to see that. Y'all really don't. It's terrible. But yeah. Yes,
Yes,
tough love does build
yeah,
character. It really
exactly.
does. But sometimes tough love makes you run away too. So, you have to know when to sprinkle it in and when to, back off just a tad. You know. Just got to have discernment, guys. But yeah, Exile wound up winning. So hopefully Team Spirit can, wrap it up and go backstage and talk about their differences and come together as a team, because they're really amazing. And I can't wait to see what else they have. So before we go to our main event, we had two other segments, except one segment seemed like sort of like a shorter version of the spotlight on Vickie Lynn McCoy as the enforcer on her ranch and stuff. So I won't go too much into that one. She just essentially said a lot of the same things that she said before with their longer spotlight, talking about her background and stuff. So I won't go too much into that. That just fed into the main event. But another segment that really did sort of warm me up a little was the segment that they had on their creative director, Selena Majors, who is, like I said, the creative director of WoW Superheroes. But something that you may or may not have known about her is the fact that she has a really rich history in women's wrestling when it comes to WoW and also in other places like WCW as well. And I learned so much about her and a lot of the things that she did in wrestling and how she trains the girls even now. And then I found out she was from Georgia, and I was just like, okay, Southern girl, love it. Georgia's next door to Alabama, so big ups to them. And on top of that, she's just really happy to be a part of WoW and to help the evolution of these women, as they train. We saw a number of the superheroes, like we saw tonight with Coach Campanelli, and a number of other women training with her, and seems like in her backyard, in a ring. And she also talked about how she overcame an eating disorder um when she was really young, and how her and her father motivated each other to sort of get past it by working out and doing fitness. And that's how wrestling sort of came to be in her life with her father and her overcoming her eating disorder. And it was very emotional for her to talk about it, but either way it was really heartfelt and really beautiful for her, and to hear her story. Then on top of that, it makes it even greater because me and Katrina actually met her in LA. And she was the nicest person. She was kind of, I guess you could say, helping, move everybody around, opening the doors and such, doing security and stuff. So she really is hands on with WoW. So it was really great to see this segment highlighting her and her growth, as not only just a pioneer in women's wrestling, but as she continues to help the next generation grow. So that was beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. She was really sweet when we met her. Definitely made us feel like part of the team. I feel like all of them did, honestly. That was something
Yes.
I one of my highlights, honestly, of that hectic weekend was because when we was there for the wild stuff, it really felt like we were part of the team. Like, and this is us meeting everybody for the first time, and we were just like, oh, we're from Women's Wrestling Talk, and they just kind of welcome us, excuse me, with open arms. And so that was one thing she and quite a few of the other ones did, was just made us feel like we were part of the team. And so just to see that and knowing like everything she's been through, I feel like everybody here at some point had some kind of struggle, whatever that may have been. And to see that even with all of that, you're still doing the thing and still making waves and doing what you need to do to kind of put women's wrestling out there and put it, make sure the focus kind of stays on that. And no shade to male wrestling. We know, sometimes women matches really deliver. And again, I like that. Wow, it doesn't always fit what you expect. As far as inside the box, I feel like they're very different than other stuff, and so it was nice to learn that. But also, again, it just was like, oh, because we did get to meet her, and again, she was really, really kind when we were in LA. So it was like a nice little, oh, okay, just learn some more information about her. That's nice that they share that and that she was willing to share that with us.
Yeah. Emily, had you met Selena before?
I have not. I have not. But I think I love how they're highlighting, like, they're giving us a little bit more behind the scenes of, like, who has been a part of WoW. And, like, again, like, she's a pillar. She's such an inspiration. She's giving back. And I think that's part of, like, this next generation of talent. Like, you have these veterans that are helping you, you have this whole slew of people helping to, like, train and to help kind of tell these stories. And I think, again, Kat, you mentioned, like, those struggles, like, everyone struggles with, like, body image and mental health and all of that. So I think it's important to talk about that. And we've heard all the backstories of these WoW superheroes too, and they all come from different backgrounds, have had different upbringings, have had different struggles. And so what I love is, like, everyone is taking their real life experiences and bringing it to this story and history of WoW superheroes. And I think that's what makes it so special.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love stuff like that. And of course, we hope to see more of it in the future and seeing, how they all come together to create this amazing show. And I don't know if they had ever done anything like this in the past where they spotlighted their people, because I never watched it, for a longer period of time. But I am glad that with this iteration, we are finding out more about it and all the women who are helping to put it together. And it's just really great to see. It's really amazing to know that the people that you meet in wrestling are not only, such amazing, superheroes in real life, but in the ring, but also in real life, they're amazing too. Like, they could be your neighbor. Like, it really feels like a lot of the time these could be people who you could, congregate with on a regular basis. Cause when I was listening to her talk, it just felt like, what, you seem like somebody I would run into downtown, where we could just sit down and, like, have, like, some tea and just chop it up about life, like, so I love stuff like that. And big ups to Selena Majors, because she's amazing. So that was great. But we are moving on to the main event, involving the enforcer of the Fab Four, Vickie Lynn McCoy, versus Sandy Shore, who did, of course, just make her debut a few weeks ago. And like I said, she is a part of the tag team collective with Crystal Waters, known as Spring Break 24/7. And this match was pretty good for the most part. I enjoyed it, but what was so funny about this was that usually the fabulous Lana Star will come out and she would be like the X factor in a lot of their matches, in distractions and stuff like that. But this time she was so confident in Vickie Lynn McCoy's performance in this match that she decided to sit on commentary
Yeah.
with AJ Mendez, David McLean, and Stephen Dickey. Like, she decided to get on commentary, and AJ was absolutely thrilled to have her, which was just so funny. She was just like, look, come on, I need more women on commentary. Come on, sit here, let's talk. And she was just talking smack, and just saying all kinds of stuff about Sandy Shore, and talking about how dominant Vickie Lynn McCoy has been and stuff like that. And it was really, really interesting. For the most part. And Vickie Lynn really just continued her dominance here in this match, and she wound up winning this match with a pink thunder bomb. And of course, Sandy Shore did try her best, but here again, this is where it's kind of bookended with this. It's like where you have a bigger, more imposing opponent going up against someone who's a little bit smaller. And
Yeah.
Vickie Lynn wound up winning this match, and yeah, she cut a promo telling everyone in the crowd to shut up as they were booing her. And she proceeded to talk more about, how she's just going to continue to be the enforcer of the Fab Four, and how they're going to continue their reign of dominance over WoW. And that was really it. That was
Yeah.
the end of the episode. So, Emily, how did you feel about this match, and how do you feel about the confidence Lana has in Vickie Lynn?
I mean, I love that. Again, this is like Lana's kind of that coach. We talked about coaches, teachers, students kind of alliances that are working. And this is an alliance and this is a group that's working right now. You know, you have to kind of let people shine in their moment. And Lana was like, you know what? You're ready for this. You're going against kind of a new talent here at WoW that you could do this. So I love how she did have that confidence because I think it helped Vickie got to get a boost in confidence, which could potentially cause some trouble later because, you know, that confidence, we've seen the Fab Four and kind of like groups and alliances have issues with that confidence where maybe it goes too far, right? Maybe there's some issues where, you know, sometimes you got to watch what happens when you have that. But I think this was a good opportunity. I think I kind of got this fun like 80s vibe with both of the gear real quick on both of them during this main event. I got this like very spring break like teenage vibe. I liked it. I liked the vibe of it. Like the energy of it was really cool. But we obviously, this was kind of that match we've seen before where you have someone that's super confident, dominant, and you have kind of a newbie coming in, which is a tough position to be in. And Sandy, obviously she went in there, tried her best, but it didn't work in her favor. But I think, you know, she's gonna have to work her way up, just like you know, other WoW superheroes have, you know, we've seen grow. So again, it's not the end to her moment. She'll have some moments to shine, and she did have some really great moments in this match. But again, she was going against someone that had Lana Star behind her, had this whole like uptick of confidence that sometimes that mental game is stronger than your physical game, and it affects everything. It's all connected. So I think it was a really fun main event. You know, we had some fun new faces in this episode, and I think we're going to continue to see some that might interrupt these WoW superheroes that are maybe getting a little too confident, maybe getting a little too comfortable. You gotta watch out for that.
Absolutely. You made all kinds of excellent points there. And what's so funny is, you know, you brought up the clothing that they had on and the gear that Sandy Shore had on and how it reminds you of the 80s. I just love the color because you got pink.
Yeah.
You just got pink in there. You got neon green. Like, that's just all of the bright colors that I love. So every time I look at Sandy Shore, it's almost like my eyes are just getting fed candy because it's just so cute. But Katrina, how did you feel about this match? And how do you feel about where Vickie Lynn McCoy's trajectory is going to be after this point?
I mean, I guess it speaks to Vickie as far as dominance that Lana didn't really have to kind of be there. Like, she was there, but it was on the aspect of I'll just kind of choke here. Kind of like, you know, when you like visit some place and you're not really meaning to be there, but it's like, oh, okay, this is fun for now. Let me just kind of scoot on in. I felt like that's what she was doing. So it speaks on Vickie that she was dominant enough that Lana didn't have to really worry about kind of interfering. And while I do like that Sandy tried, I just, again, Vickie is somebody you have to either play very smartly in the ring, maybe go after parts that will kind of slowly bring her down, but it's not some, she's not some, she's one of the wrestlers that say you have to put on the ass. Like, you really have to do some stuff to kind of make sure she's, you know, to lose a match, it has to be like a conscious effort, like never really letting up on her. And so while she did try, just I wasn't surprised again with this ending, just because, you know, that's literally what she's there for, the Fab Four. She's there to enforce. She's there to protect. She is kind of there to, you have to go through her. And she said this, like, you have to go through her anyway to even get to the twins, to even get to Penelope. And so it was a valid effort on Sandy's part, but I felt like in this regard, it's just she's showing what she's been saying this whole time. She's dominant. She's the enforcer. Again, I don't know how this is going to play in a couple of months. So she'd be tired of being the enforcer, or like would this be an issue if she wants to move past that? Because is there more aspirations moving past just being the person who's kind of enforcing while the other ladies have belts and she's just there enforcing? Like, would this be a problem later on? And I feel like I can see it being a problem, and also that she would probably give them a problem because of the four. While they all have their aspects, she is clearly the stronger of the group, and so the strongest one of that group. And so, could she give Penelope a problem? Could she decide to team up with somebody else super like dominant and decide to take the titles from the twins? It could be so many ways, because like, after a while, it's like, are you okay with just being the enforcer, just kind of being the roadblock to get to the other three, you know? And like, is that something you're perfectly fine being that in like 5 or 6 months? Will you still feel that happily to be like, I'll just get through me, which she want higher aspirations? And so it could, I feel like it can really well move towards maybe she not be happy, but in regard, it just speaks to her ability to be like, this is what I do, and she did it. I feel like that's why, that's one of those things like, oh, they got it. It's like as a mom, when I know my kid got something, I don't need the word, but I'm like, oh, they got this. Like, this is light work for you. Like, this is easy. And so that, I think that's kind of what Lana was just feeling like. This is, I don't need to have to worry or stress about this. I can just chill on commentary with AJ.
Yeah, but Kat, that's like the vibe I got too of like watching. I was like, this might be a problem. Like, this might be a problem later on, because like, yeah, she's the enforcer, but you make a good point. What happens if she wants a title run? Because she's the one, she has the door, right? She's the one that's like keeping people away, right? So if she is the one that's keeping people away, what's stopping her from going after it herself? And I think that is a valid question to think about, especially now. We saw Lana, believe in her and just letting her do her thing. And maybe Lana is in it as well. If Lana is confident, maybe Lana is building the next number one contender or the next challenger.
Yeah, she could very well be building the next number one contender, because that is something I brought up before. I was just like, I wonder really, like, how long is she going to be good with that? Like, do we see her like ever challenging like Penelope Pink at some point, considering she's the one protecting the title? How would she feel about having the title around her waist and protecting it that way, as opposed to being essentially a bodyguard? Like, that is a really valid question. But then as I was watching the beginning of the show, they kept highlighting the Fab Four over and over again, and how Lana has all of the titles on her mantle like the way that she wanted to. A part of me wonders, does she feel left out? Should WoW add another title, for the other women? Because like I've mentioned on social media, it's like Penelope Pink really isn't on television that much. I low-key feel like this is a conversation you could add almost to the Roman Reigns situation, and the world heavyweight title too. But it's just like, she's Penelope Pink, as a WoW world champion, she calls herself an attraction. She said that on Twitter when I asked where she's going to be. She's never really on TV that much.
But
and
you
it's
don't
just
go to
like,
Disneyland every weekend. You
I
go
mean,
once a year.
that's true, but at the same time, it makes me wonder, would WoW consider adding another title? Would it be, such a bad idea if they did that for the other women? Because you really only have the world title and the tag titles.
Yeah. I think we brought up some valid points. Maybe we'll see more in season 2.
Yeah, maybe we will see more in season 2. But yeah, that was the end of this episode of WoW. Really solid episode. So of course, if you are looking to get into WoW superheroes, you can figure out where you can watch it. If you want to watch it on television, you can go on wowe.com and figure out where it's listed for you and what time it comes on for you, as well as watching it on Pluto TV for free, and watching it on YouTube for free. You can watch it there as well. So please just continue to support them as they continue to grow into their second season. Like, it's just such good stuff going on, and so much good wrestling happening, and I'm happy that they are a part of it. So let's just continue to support and lift up WoW superheroes all of the time. But that wraps up our time together on this after show. Thank you guys so much for watching and for commenting. So Emily, tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on when you're not being an awesome superstar.
You can follow me on all social platforms at Emily May Heller. Stephanie always gets me with those intros. I'm all like blushing. But yeah, you can follow me on all social platforms there, and I'll update you on all my adventures there.
And you, Kat, what have you got going on?
Well, on social media, I'm on mostly everywhere in Cat Trust, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Easy3. I did have an interview with Journey Burke not too long ago. That is live. I keep saying this, I will have more reviews. It's just been very, very hectic. And so I haven't had a chance to upload them, but they are coming. Again, I'm a bit of a nerd, so everything's on my channel. And if you are in Miami, I will be at Miami's Convention Center on Friday, June 30th, doing the Women of Color Behind the Magic Women of Color in Wrestling panel with Astrid, who I believe writes and hosts a little bit on Women's Wrestling Talk, Samira, who used to host on Women's Wrestling Talk, and Sahara, who just did an interview with Nikki and Santana, the Salt Shakers, with her tag partner. And so we will be there, and it should be super fun. I'm excited about it. And hopefully to meet some wrestling fans. Apparently they were looking for wrestling content. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll be there. So come on in, and I'm grateful to meet you guys. And so if you are in Miami, definitely check that out. And in the Jersey areas, in the next 2 weeks, I'm making a debut. So if you are in the Jersey, Lakewood area of New Jersey, I will be doing interviews actually with Samira, as she's doing ring announcing that show for Goddesses of War Wrestling.
Yes,
Awesome
get
sauce.
it.
Awesome sauce. Well, you can find and follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. And of course, listen and watch the Hardy Wrestling Podcast everywhere you get your podcasts, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I have a new episode that did just come out today that I did record yesterday called Across the Wrestleverse, where I finally talk about everything that I have felt about wrestling over the past few weeks, because I've had a lot of interviews, but now it's time to get back to basics and talk about how I feel about the wrestling landscape. So you'll only be hearing my voice for a minute, and that's fine. So please check out that episode. I will be sharing clips throughout Raw as we're watching as well. So that's what I have going on. But of course, when you're not watching and supporting everything else that we've got going on, support Women's Wrestling Talk. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at WWTalkPod. Check out our website at www.talkpod.com. We are under construction and building a new website as we speak, so we have all of that stuff going on for us, as well as our articles, our interviews, so many things that you can catch up with us on, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube and on Twitch, and like us on Facebook, so you can get notified every time we go live, and you won't miss any of the shows that we did advertise on today. So of course, this has been the Wow Superheroes After Show on Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And until next time, bye y'all.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.